What's up squad, I'm Ali, I'm one half of Jockey Cosplay, and in this video I'll show you how I made my SUKI cosplay from scratch in 3 days, or about 30 hours. The original plan for this was to attempt to make this cosplay in 1 day, like the 1 day challenge Caitlin did with her Miss Joke cosplay. You can watch our 2 videos of her Miss Joke challenge on our channel. I think I bit off a bit more than I could chew though, because this cosplay ended up taking 3 days to create. I recorded almost every part of the construction process, starting with the headpiece. The headpiece was made using 3mm and 4mm foam, with 2 handmade hanging ornaments sandwiched inside the foam. The ornaments were made using 2 different golden trims that I found at Spotlight. As you can see, I cut one of the trims to make the end tassels. I then heat sealed the foam, primed it with 2 coats of Mod Podge, and spray painted the headpiece gold. I've only recently started using Mod Podge as a primer for cosplay builds. In the past, Caitlin and I always used Plasti-Dip or an equivalent spray primer, but if you're looking for a shinier finish, I would recommend doing a few layers of Mod Podge, as the glossy surface really helps bring out the shine if you're using gold or silver paints. The shirt was made from an altered dress pattern and the puffy sleeves were designed after a bit of trial and error. I highly recommend drafting your cosplays using inexpensive fabric before making the real thing, as this really helped me with this challenge. The fabric was a simple cotton drill fabric, and I installed a dress zip at the back so I could get in and out of the shirt. The skirt was a simple circle skirt pattern with a zip opening on the side and elastic around the waist. Originally, I tried edge stitching the pleats, but unfortunately that didn't really work with the fabric I chose, so I was forced to sew the pleats down in order for the skirt to look good. My problem was the skirt fabric was very heavy and also had a bit of two-way stretch, which generally isn't good for loose skirts. This was the only fabric I could find in the right colour though, so I just had to make it work. The thing that goes on top of the skirt, don't really know what to call it, was made using the same skirt pattern, but obviously didn't go all the way around like a skirt. It was made using the same fabric as the top. At the top of this skirt thing, I attached Velcro on strips. I then started constructing the braces out of foam. I used 4mm foam, and like all of my cosplay armour, I used Velcro to close the sides. This was all I could do in 1 day, so with the sewing all done, the next challenge was going to be constructing the armour. I started off day 2 by finishing the braces. I found this awesome woven fabric at Spotlight which was just perfect for armour. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough left at the store to use it for the chest armour, so instead I used it as accent pieces on the braces and the shoulder pieces, which you'll see later. All the fabric was attached to the foam with contact adhesive. We always use contact adhesive because it holds really well and doesn't come unstuck over time, which is an issue we've had when using hot glue. Just a reminder to always have a door or window open whenever you use contact adhesive, because the fumes from the glue can be quite dangerous. Gloves can definitely be a bit of a pain to make, but the simplest way to make them is to trace your hand, cut around the tracing with a bit of extra added to the side to allow for seam allowances, and sew using a stretch stitch. And if the fabric is only two-way stretch, make sure the stretch is horizontal. Personally, I think two-tone gloves look really cool, and even though the fingers on these gloves are a little long, I think they turned out great. Next was the shoulder pieces. The shoulder pieces were made with 5mm foam plus some 4mm foam for edging. I then used the same woven fabric that I used on the braces to cover the shoulder pieces. This might sound weird or maybe even controversial to some cosplayers, but I didn't actually prime or paint the braces or shoulder pieces at all. Partly because I was short on time, and partly because honestly I didn't think they needed it. I was working with black foam, so the colour was already accurate in my opinion. It definitely felt weird though, not priming or painting the foam. I feel like it was at this point that I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I knew that I was really close to finishing, and I just couldn't wait to get to the final piece of armour, which was the chest armour. It's always good to have a friend to help with drafting. Caitlin helped me draft the chest armour using glad wrap and masking tape. She constantly checked the reference images as she shaped the armour using masking tape and drew lines to mark the front middle and back middle of the armour pattern. We just did one side of the armour because that way I could just mirror the draft, and not only would the armour be more symmetrical, but it also meant Caitlin didn't have to waste masking tape covering my whole torso. I used craft foam as the shell of the armour because the thinner the foam, the easier movement is, and I wanted to have a good range of movement in this cosplay. At this point I was feeling a bit disappointed in myself for not finishing in 2 days, so I made myself a promise I would keep working the next day and finish making Suki. With the foam shell done, I started covering the foam with fabric. I cut strips of fabric, folded the bottoms, and glued it onto the foam shell, piece by piece. It took ages. It's really difficult to judge how long a cosplay will take to create before you start it, but I had pretty seriously underestimated how long it would take to make Suki. I calculated that in total, I spent around 30 hours making this cosplay. I definitely used some quicker, rougher methods than I would normally in order to try and get this cosplay done as quickly as possible. I'm glad though that I didn't cut too many corners, or else it would have just turned into a huge mess. I think that's an important part of cosplay, knowing when to cut corners in construction and when to do things properly, so you can have an amazing looking finished product. Speaking of finished products, here's a final look at the completed cosplay. If you've enjoyed watching this video, make sure to check out our other cosplay videos and subscribe to our channel. Love you, bye!